If you are what you say you are, a superstar, then have no fear. The camera's here and the mic.
Talk to him, Lupe.
And they wanna know. Yeah, a fresh, cool young Lou trying to cash his microphone check 212. Wanna believe my own hype, but it's too untrue. The world brought me to my knees. What have you brung you? Did you improve on the design? Did you do something new? Where your name in on the guest list? Who brung you?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens, brought to you by Riptide Media Network. Make sure that you go and download that 102.9 The Game app. You can get that on your Apple and or Google Play Store. Rate the show, comment, agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. 5-star ratings are appreciated. And if you're joining me on this YouTube channel, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Shout out to everybody that's joining me on X or Twitter, on the Bleacher Brothers X or Twitter or whatever you're calling it. Everywhere, Facebook community, I really do appreciate it. I've been slightly miffed lately. About athletics and the role that it plays in helping young men and young women have more avenues to success. I've been perplexed because I was always under the assumption that the reason for playing high school sports, other than enjoyment, camaraderie, staying in shape, something to do, other than those things, right? Teaching you life lessons, was to use athletics as a means to make the next step more palatable, right? In order to make the next step easier, in order to have a road open for you that you may not have had open before. And so it's interesting to me to watch athletes who are really, really good not either be led in a direction that makes the most sense for their talent, or who know that they are not as good in a certain sport as they want to be, that they know that there's a cap on what they're able to achieve at that sport, and yet are not open to doing or putting in the resources that they do in that one sport to the other sport that would actually yield them the fruits of their labor. There are, in where I live at, there are, before I go there, let me rewind, because I've told this story before. I am, in my brain, in my heart, a basketball player, right? In my brain, in my heart, I'm a hooper. I think basketball was my best sport. I think the game different. I operate in the game different. I really believe that my aptitude level for basketball was higher than any other sport that I played, and I played a lot of sports. But I'm 6'4". And when I was in high school, I had the chance to go to a lot of really big camps, like really big, like exposure recruiting camps. And it was really interesting when I went to these camps, what would happen. So at my school, because we didn't have a lot of tall people, I played the 4. This was back when they were still giving designations, but I played the 4 more like you would see the 4 played today. right? But I played the 4, and I guarded whomever the big man was from the other team. That's how I operated. And I remember in my junior year, my head coach, Coach Himes, God rest the dead. He said to me, "Hey, our best lineup would be you playing the 2, because that year we had gotten some taller players. It made it possible for me to play a position that would be more advantageous for me to play in the game of basketball, because at the next level, we all know, size matters, right? So he said the best lineup for us would be you playing the 2. But if I did that, then I would have nothing coming off the bench. So I want to bring you off the bench. And I remember we had gotten a couple recruits in, right? Not a couple transfers in. This tall 6'5" dude from a private school had come in to play the 3. This tall, long, athletic 6'6", 6'7" guy had come in to play, down the post, which allowed me to play more of a facilitator role, which I was really good at. So he says, "I'm gonna bring you off the bench." Lo and behold, we were going through the year. We got to Christmas, and the transfer private school kid that came in wasn't working out. Head case, not as good. You just had to put me in. Like, I had to be in there more. And so I got inserted into the lineup as a 3. We went on to win our first district championship that season. We came back the next season, won the district championship again with me playing the 3. But again, I am not the prototypical size, and I did not have the skill set for the position that I would have been asked to play in college. So I also played football. And in football, a 6'4", 190-pound wide receiver looks infinitely better than a 6'4", 190-pound power forward in basketball, small forward in basketball. I didn't have shooting skills to the level of a 2 guard, and I didn't have ball handling skills that were good enough to play the point. You get where I'm going with this? I could have pursued basketball, and whatever those avenues would have been for me to attack, I could have pursued it. But the smarter thing for me, the thing that was going to open up the most doors, was football. And I didn't go to like a major university to play football, but football has opened up every single door in my life. I was able to go to college in part because football made it palatable. Because I was playing football, and because I was in college, I got a chance to start exploring my interest. Journalism was a big interest. Theater was a big interest. And so as a result, I began to pursue those things. It is only because of football and my knowledge of football that I have been able to have a foothold in mass media for as long as I've had a foothold in mass media. I write, but most of the times that I write about sports, I'm writing about football. And I'm usually writing about football analysis, analyzing players, analyzing plays, analyzing teams, analyzing what coaches should do. Why? Because that's where people feel my expertise lies. I've had a chance to call collegiate football games. So when you pop on that ESPN production this fall and you're watching an HBCU football game, there's a chance you might see me. And if you see me there, then you know what time it is. So it is everything that I've done because I chose the avenue that opened up more doors for me has allowed me to achieve things that I would have probably never achieved had I gone down the road of just what I loved, right? Or what I thought I was good at. I say all that to say there are a lot of players that are walking around here thinking that they're football players when they really should be running track, or they really should be wrestling, or they really should be playing another sport. There's a lot of basketball players, especially because this is the sport that you see it the most in, is in basketball. There are a lot of basketball players who are operating underneath the guise that they're going to be basketball players. But you and I both know this ain't the case. Basketball is extremely tough to break into. I'm going to give you the example I was going to give you earlier. I live in a city where basketball is king. I live in a city where basketball is king, even though in the 4 years that I've been here, there's only been one player who signed a major Division I scholarship to go and play basketball. Like, hear me again. Basketball is king in this city. I live in Savannah, and in the city of Savannah, basketball is what everybody talks about. Basketball is what moves the needle. Yet, in my 4 years in Savannah, I've only ever seen one basketball player. One. Two, if you count, and I should, so this is my apologies. Two, if you count men's and women's, I've only seen two sign Division I scholarships. One went to Georgetown. I haven't heard about him since. The other went to North Florida. She's doing decently. I don't think either one of them is going to the NBA or the WNBA. However, in that same time, there have been countless amounts of Division I football players come through this city. Countless. Years at the school that I teach at, coming off COVID after losing like 17 seniors who were all Division I talents. This team has produced double-digit Division I caliber players. Guys who have signed Division I scholarships. And that's just at this school that hasn't had a lot of success on the field until this past year, where they had a bad regular season and then got hot in the playoffs. That's not talking about the state championship back-to-back team that's in the area. That's not talking about two other private schools in the area that produce Division I talent. One of them currently has the number one player in the 2026 class, I believe, in the nation. Everything in this city points to you should pour more into football. Everything in this city says, hey, players who think you're really good, you should probably be playing football, and yet they don't. This city has a ton of talent, like a ton of just athletic talent. The track and field here should be phenomenal, and it's really good, but it should be phenomenal. There are two guys, There are 3 guys in the area that all high jump 6'6" plus. There are 3 guys in the area. Only one of them is slated to go to college on a track and field scholarship. I believe he's going to Kennesaw State. The other 2 both think they're basketball players. So they're jumping over 6'6" and 6'8" without any real technique, without any real coaching, without any real dedication to the sport. I'm going to give you a news flash if you don't know anything about track and field. If you can jump over 6'6", then you can jump over 7 feet. If you can jump over 6'6" with no talent, with no technique, then you can jump over 7 feet with technique. They are already scholarship level Division I track athletes. And yet neither one of them will do anything to help themselves be noticed and or attack a college track scholarship. Where are the advisors? And if there are advisors, if there's people who are telling them, hey, yo, I know you love basketball, but this is your way to the next level, at the highest level. I had a young man who last year came out to play football. He came out in his senior year. He hadn't played football since youth league. 6'6", 230-something, 240 pounds, a Division I caliber body. Came out, he played, but he never really dedicated himself. And because he never really dedicated himself, he never got anything out of it. Why? Because he kept wanting to be a basketball player. This was just something for him to do. This wasn't something that he looked at as something to open a door for him. He looked at it as something to do. And he went back to play basketball, and he had a great year. He had a great year in basketball. He had a great year. But a 6'6", 6'5", 6'6", decently athletic, not really athletic, like barely dunking, guy who can shoot but can't rebound. He's 6'6", but he is not a guard. He's a 6'6" big who has a little bit of shot but can't dribble, doesn't rebound well. What's his role? What's his role? So now we're sitting here going, what do they do now? He had an older brother who probably didn't even have to play football. Could have just walked into a coach's office at a major Division I football program, and they would have looked at him and said, oh yeah, we'll take him. We'll develop him. He had all of the things athletically that I said that his brother didn't have. He was taller. He was bigger. He was stronger. He was more explosive. He was all of those things. And I told him, hey man, you should be playing football. But he didn't. Wouldn't play basketball. Probably not playing basketball anymore. This isn't a diss on him. We all have our goals and our dreams that we want to obtain. And I get that. And I'm saying that if you want to attack that, great. But you got to be ready. You got to be ready for the consequences of your actions. And the consequences in here in this city, which is no different than a lot of other cities, you have a lot of basketball players that if they would have played football or they would have taken track and field seriously, you have a lot of football players that if they would have taken wrestling seriously, would be right now sitting with scholarships to major colleges and universities that would not have to take out debt in order to go to a 40-something, 50-something $1,000 a year NAIA school where they give them $20,000 scholarships and then tell them you have to figure out the other $30,000. Well, Pell Grants don't cover $30,000. Pell Grants cover like 10, 12. Now you got to come up with another $20,000. Guess what you're doing? You're taking out loans. You spend a year there. You go, oh, I'm killing it here. Or you don't kill it there and you blame the coaches and now you're transferring. Or you kill it there and you think you're better, so now you're transferring. Just to get back out there, go into the world, try to figure it out again, make your mark again. You're on this revolving door trying to chase a dream, and in the meantime, you know what you never develop? You never develop a love for anything. You never develop an interest. You never develop a community that you can then rely on post-graduation. Yo, college is so much more than just playing the sport. It's about so much more than just lining up. College is about communities. It's about setting up what your community is going to be, what your friend group is going to be, right? I have a young girl a young lady, I shouldn't even say a young girl, a young lady in my classroom. She plays like every sport. Ultra athletic. Like really, really athletic. Unfortunately, God didn't bless her with any height. Right? Like probably pound for pound, male or female, the best athlete in this area. I would put her athleticism up. If there was a measurable that you could do that added height and weight into the equation with the athletics and like spit out a formula, I would guess that she is probably pound for pound the best athlete in this area. How do I advise? Right? What does she love? What does she love? Versus what opens up the most doors for her? And for me, I want everybody to pursue what they love. But I also want people to know, especially our young athletes, that just because you love it doesn't mean you're meant to pursue it. Right? I love art. I love art. I love drawing. I'm fascinated by it. As a kid, I used to try to draw. It's not my greatest gift. My brain is there, but my execution isn't. So I love it from afar. I don't pursue it because it's not mine to pursue. It's not where my gift that God gave me or whatever the higher power that gave me, it's not where I'm able to use that gift the most. I understand that. I recognize that. I understood that at an early age, and that's why I decided to play football going forward. I went to college to play all three sports. For my first 2 years of college, I played basketball, I played football, and I ran track. For my first 2 years of college. And I wasn't just there. I was starting on the football team. I was starting on the basketball team, and I was an active and valuable member of the track team. I wasn't just doing them. I've never just done anything. If I'm out there, I'm about to be a factor. But after 2 years of doing all three and all the other things in my life that happened, I knew I couldn't keep doing all three. At some point, you got to make a choice about what you're going to put your focus on, because that's what opens the most doors. I have young men who are deciding that they're going to put their focus all on basketball. Yet, there are no doors open in basketball right now. Basketball is oversaturated. Football, it's impossible for it to ever be oversaturated. Track and field, it's impossible for it to ever be oversaturated. Why? Because you always need the elite level athletes playing it. The turnover is fast. The shelf life is shorter. But because of the nature of basketball, those otherworldly talents are coming in young and they're staying until they're super old. LeBron came into the league at 18 years old. He's about to be 40. He's still there. They just got eliminated in 5 games from the Denver Nuggets, but every one of those games were hella competitive. It could have went either way. In the game that they just lost, he had a 30-point triple-double. He's about to be 40. Michael Porter Jr. has seemingly been in the league forever. He's 25 years old. He's been in the league for 6 years. He's 25 years old. That means by the time he's 30, he would have been in the league for 11 years. And he's still going to steal money for another 5 years, most likely, after that. The game has changed, it's saturated, and it's backing up. We have to do a better job as mentors, as coaches, as teachers, as parents to help guide our players, our young men and women down a path that opens the most doors for them, and not just the path that we feel they want to do. Sometimes we have to be the conscience that they don't have. That's why we can't be bothered to try to be their friends. We have to be the adults, the father figures, the big homie, the grandma, the mama. We can't be the homegirl. We can't be the homeboy, because we're going to have to say some things that they're not going to like. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, I'll be talking to Emory Hunt of Football Gameplan, talking about a little sneak peek into 2025 and the 2024 college football season. A lot of people out here telling us that there's no quarterbacks. We're going to tell you why they're wrong. Stay tuned. This is Talk Spicy on the Riptide Media Network.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I gotta tell you, I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too, but I'm glad we are.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and life experiences come together through conversation, and it feels good.
Wow, your story is so...
Interesting?
Yeah.
When people actually sit down, talk, and listen to one another, they can break down boundaries and connect as human beings. At lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep, you can listen to amazing, life-changing conversations and find simple tools to start a conversation of your own.
I know one thing. This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together by having the courage to start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
People do some pretty cool things in their 40s and 50s. Why should saving for retirement be any different? I mean, they go back to college, learn new instruments, start skateboarding.
Whoa!
Okay, maybe that one's not for everybody, but saving for retirement is. With aceyourretirement.org, you can get on track with your retirement savings no matter your age. Just have a 3-minute chat with Avo, the friendly digital retirement coach from AARP. You'll get personalized recommendations based on your input that are easy to understand and work with your lifestyle. It's quick, easy, and free. Plus, it's sponsored by AARP, so you know they got your back.
Woo-hoo! Gnarly move, Dad.
Thanks, sweetie.
So wherever you are in your retirement savings journey, head to aceyourretirement.org and start chatting with Avo today. That's aceyourretirement.org. A message from AARP and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talk Spicy. Coach Gene Clemens here as always. Make sure that you get that 102.9, the game app. Download that on the Google Play stores or iTunes or wherever you get your apps from. Shout out to Riptide Media Networks and the Bleacher Brothers Network for adding this to one of their streams going on. Really do appreciate it. Appreciate the reach as we continue to give the masses what they want from 4 to 6 every day, or at least Monday through Friday. I'm joined right now by a good friend of mine. His first time he's been on this iteration of the show, but definitely won't be the last. We'll be chopping it up on a regular basis. One of the best people in the game to do it. One of the hardest working people in football media, whether it is analysis, whether it is color commentary, whether it is player evaluations. He does it all. Just dropped, or not just dropped, but now out right now and able to be purchased on a PDF copy. That means you can pay for it and get it right now. That is the 2024 football game plan draft guide. I am joined by Emory Hunt, Mr. Day 3 himself, the czar of the playbook. My guy, Emory, it is a pleasure to have you.
What's good, Gene? Glad to be on the show, man.
Absolutely. I want to start with this. How surprised were you when you looked up 15 picks into the NFL draft and went, there's been 6 quarterbacks taken? Like, how surprised were you? And what do you think that did as a ripple effect of the rest of the draft?
Very surprised, because now you put these guys in situations where you're expecting 5 of the 6 to start. But like I said the other day, it wouldn't surprise me to see Penix start the season, because we still don't know how healthy Cousins is, coming off of an Achilles injury that he tore 9 weeks after Aaron Rodgers tore his, and he's 36 years old, and he's not the most mobile guy. So we may see all 6 rookie quarterbacks, start for their franchise right out of the gate. And that's always going to be interesting to watch, because 2 guys you could make a case for were legitimate top 5 talents, and that was, in my opinion, Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams. Everyone else, I can understand a Michael Penix going in round 1. I can even understand a Drake May going in round 1. But it's the J.J. McCarthy and the Bo Nix one that really were head scratchers, just from a physical standpoint, just from a an athleticism standpoint, and even just from a playmaking standpoint. They were more glorified second round picks. So now you put 6 guys in the crosshairs to start right away. You're either going to sink or swim, and it'll be fascinating to watch who will get the benefit of the doubt for the next season, because we know the Bears are not going to move off Caleb Williams. We know Washington is not going to move off Jaden Daniels. We know Drake May is not going to be moved off by New England. But those, and Penix obviously was selected for a reason. But when you're Minnesota and you are Denver, you could put yourself in a situation where if we are not good this year, we may be in the top 5 once again. And now things get kind of hairy, gets kind of sticky when you start to project forward the next class.
I just want to play this scenario out, and then I want to get to a couple more quarterbacks in the draft, and then I'm going to double back to this. Just imagine this scenario happening. You're Denver. You have traded for Zach Wilson. You've traded for Zach Wilson. You have drafted Bo Nix in the first round. Spider-Man meme, right? So you've got the Spider-Verse going on in Denver. You have an awful season. You're sitting with a top 5 pick, and now Shedeur Sanders is looking at you in the face. A guy who has essentially revitalized the entire Colorado area is going to be coming off another phenomenal, most likely record-breaking season, possibly a Heisman Trophy and or a Heisman Trophy finalist type of season. And you have a chance to take that guy with that dynamic and put him and keep him in a city that he has become beloved in. What kind of bumble are you going to do when you have to decide to take? Are they going to almost like price themselves out of Shedeur Sanders or one of these other top level quarterbacks is going to come out in the 2025 class because of what they've done this year, reaching for a Bo Nix?
Absolutely, because we remember they are still paying Russell Wilson. So they have a ton of money tied up in the quarterback room, with guys that are there and guys that are not there. So if Shedeur is standing there, and you brought up a good point, he is beloved out there in Denver/Boulder. And if here's the other possibility, if it's a true competition, what if Zach Wilson is just better than Bo Nix? Like, what if this was the fresh start Zach Wilson needed, and he outplays Bo Nix and he ends up being the starter? Now you really create a scenario where, man, we might have to double and triple dip at the quarterback position again going into the season. I think that would be the worst case scenario. It's almost like when the Giants traded out of the pick with the Bears so the Bears could take Justin Fields, and the Giants traded back to get Kadarius Toney and stay with Daniel Jones. Like, it's almost, now you see the Giants are still in a situation where they need a quarterback. So Denver could find themselves playing in the same arena in this, next year with regards to that position.
Spencer Rattler goes to New Orleans. How good of a fit? I know that I had Chris James on, and he talked about he really wanted to see Rattler go to New Orleans. He thought that would be a great fit for him. What do you think about the fit for Rattler in New Orleans?
I think it's a good fit. The only thing that worries me is about, okay, who's calling the plays? And I'm always big on if it's a real competition. I preface that with everything I talk about with regards to depth chart and playing a better guy. Because if you want to hang around as a coach, you play your best players, right? We saw Bill Belichick do that with Tom Brady, proved to be better than a very good Drew Bledsoe, but he went with the better guy, right? All it takes is a preseason, and for Rattler to hit a couple of deep balls, we know that's not in none of the Saints quarterbacks' arsenal that are currently on the depth chart. He hit a couple deep shots accurately down the field, stretched the pass game vertically, and fans already don't like Derek Carr. He's already on thin ice. You saw how well they wanted Jameis and how much they wanted James to play and start. Once they realized they bought a lemon in Derek Carr, same thing could happen with Spencer Rattler, where he could have a strong preseason with some of the weapons they've added at receiver, with some of the weapons they've added in the backfield, and Rattler could look good moving the football against, second and third teamers, which he would be himself. And Carr just has to have one bad game. It might even take a half for fans start, chanting Spencer Rattler. But will Dennis Allen have the gravitas to pull a trigger? Probably not. And so I still feel like that's a good fit for Rattler. The talent says it's a good fit, but we'll see how the coaching affects the situation like it did last year.
Joe Milton, Bazooka Joe, goes to New England, which is really weird because New England drafted Drake May. What do you think about the Drake May, Joe Milton being in the same locker room? Does this have the potential to be an RG3 type of situation, or will it probably not be there because the powers that be won't let it be that type of thing?
It might be more of the latter, and it probably would be more towards the Heath Schuler, Gus Frerotte situation. Because we know the only reason why RG3 was usurped because he was hurt. Well, at the end of the day, Gus Frerotte just outplayed Heath Schuler, and they were taking him the same draft by Washington as well. So we've seen this done before. And that's going to be fascinating to watch because at the end of the day, it's about winning games. And if it's proven that the backup quarterback or the guy you drafted later is better than the guy you drafted earlier, if you look at it in terms of contracts, like, hey, we're still committed to this amount of dollars for the quarterback room. We just have to play musical chairs, and the cheaper guy may start, but we still are paying for the collective room. So you can't even worry about contracts in that sense. But what will be important for Joe Milton is that in the preseason, he's going to have to connect on the deep balls that he do throw. And that's an area where you expect him to have the most success because he has the strongest arm, but his deep ball rate wasn't the best at Tennessee. And you hope that's the case there in New England. And he has to improve on his lower body mechanics. If that improves and you tie that in with the accuracy going deeper down the field, they could create a situation where Milton will look fantastic in a preseason. But again, it's about if you're opening it up to a true competition, and if you are, really honest with yourself and saying, hey, yeah, we drafted this guy at third, but this guy we drafted later just flat out outplays the guy. You got to let the true competition just take place because it's about putting the best 11 out there on the field, and it's about winning games. And if you're not winning games based off draft status and a refusal to play the better guy, then why are you even coaching?
Absolutely. One of the things that I look at as I get ready to change my attention to what we're going to see in 2024, the 2024 season, I'd be remiss if I didn't already start looking towards the 2025 draft and the quarterbacks that are going to be available in the 2025 draft. I think this is interesting, right? Because I've heard a lot of Carson Beck lately. I've heard a lot of Quinn Ewers lately. I've even heard the Riley Leonard stuff starting to play back up. Oh, Riley Leonard. And I keep going. Y'all can talk about those guys all you want. You could talk about an 87-year-old Dylan Gabriel who's going to play for his 157th different team. Like, you can talk about your Connor Wegmans and Grayson McCall, who's still somehow kicking around out here. But Shedeur Sanders is the unquestioned class of this quarterback draft. And I will put it to you this way. One of the reasons why I believe that he is the class is because there is no one that is going to be more uniquely prepared to walk into the NFL and deal with the pressures of being the number one overall pick than Shedeur Sanders. Like, when we don't even consider his anticipation, his ball placement, which is like, I believe is like some of the best I've seen. The ability to anticipate and the ability to place the ball in areas and to throw one of the more catchable balls, a very Tyrod Taylor-esque like feel to it, that it doesn't seem like he has this strong of an arm, except he just continues to put the ball in the spot like where it needs to be, when it needs to be there. But all of that aside, and then the underrated athleticism that we don't talk about because like they act like, at the end of the day, he's still a Sanders, right? At the end of the day, he's still a Sanders. But with all of that being said, the ability to handle the moment, to be able to absorb what's going on, to be mature in the moment, like, I think that's what sets him apart from everybody that was in the draft this year and everybody that's going to be in the draft next year. And quite honestly, if you look throughout the last 10 years of drafting, there's nobody more suited from a maturity standpoint to be able to walk in and accept that role the way he will be.
Yeah, listen, I totally agree. And the cool part is, even before you get to all of the physical traits of what he does, throwing the football mechanically and all that stuff like that, if you even just don't even talk about that and just focus on how he's handled end of game situations, fourth quarter drives, fourth quarter comebacks, game winning drives, overtime games, dating back to his true freshman season at Jackson State to what we saw last year at Colorado against Arizona State, against Colorado State, against TCU. This dude is absolute money when you need a drive to score, to tie, or to win. This is what you look for in a pro quarterback. And you touched on it too. Having the weight of being Deion Sanders' kid that plays quarterback and proving that is not a daddy ball situation right out of the gate at Jackson State, and just leading that team to those wins and, Black College National Player of the Year. I think he won it twice. SWAC Player of the Year. Got those guys to 2 straight Celebration Bowls, 2 straight SWAC titles. Now, granted, some people may say, well, they had the best team in the SWAC, but they still had to win those games and play those games, right? And they probably should have beaten UL Monroe too that year. Then you go to Colorado, and all you heard was everyone talk bad about him, and this is big boy football. This is Power 5. He can't do what he did at Jackson State. And it had everybody with a cake mouth after that first game against TCU, shut everybody up to where now everybody was like, oh, well, maybe Shedeur Sanders could be one of the, a first round quarterback. Like we was telling you that back when he was at Jackson State. So you really start to question, like, who grades the evaluator? Who evaluates the evaluators? Because it should be clear, cut, and obvious that Shedeur Sanders is the number 1 overall quarterback in next year's class, regardless of who comes out. And we're talking about all the quarterbacks, even a guy like Milroe, who has made significant strides in this game. It should be, if you are a quarterback guru and a quarterback whisperer, in terms of evaluating talent, then this is a layup. Shedeur is a layup, but we'll see how it plays out. But this is, if you like Joe Burrow, you love Shedeur Sanders, because it's clear cut and obvious that this is the number 1 quarterback next year. And you look at teams that could be in position to take quarterbacks: the Raiders, Giants, Tennessee Titans, the Rams, all need quarterbacks, in my opinion, for the future. They're quote unquote franchise guys. So we have 4 teams that Buccaneers could be vying for, a quarterback in round 1. So we could see the same thing next year with 6 quarterbacks going in round 1. As much as people think is not a good quarterback class, we know that's not the case.
Yeah, and I want to get into some more things because, again, I people out here talking this Carson Beck stuff, and I'm like, I don't know what Georgia team you were watching last year, but he ain't it. Like, now, I give him the same latitude that I give all quarterbacks. Maybe he has some jump to him. I looked at what Quinn Ewers did. It was cool. He ain't no Shadur Sanders. Neither one of them are a Jalen Milroe, in my opinion. And this is where it gets interesting, because a guy like Jalen Milroe, with his physical stature, some people have him listed as 6'2", 220, and I'm like, you might want to look a little closer. He looks way more massive. Like, just the way he's wired together looks different than 220. But if he is, cool. He is, from a play standpoint, the closest thing that I've seen to a Cam Newton that has come out. Like, the way, like, if you remember Cam Newton at Auburn, the way he threw the ball was a little awkward. You know, you could see the stuff, but it was a little awkward. And then when he would pull the ball down, it was like, oh, snap. Like, you got to be ready. It's different, right? And I feel that same way about Jalen Milroe. Ever since the South Florida debacle, where they decided to play the other two dudes because they were trying to find the bad team to play so that they would look good, and then they almost lost. And Nick Saban had to come back like John Cusack and say anything with the radio over his head, begging Jalen Milroe to play again. And from that point on, he was a Heisman level player. Now going into another year, low key, with an offense that's going to be more dynamic than the offense that left from last year, because the coordinator or the head coach that comes in, he just has a much better offensive philosophy than the person that left, right? So I think he has a chance for the bump. I look at Cam Ward, a guy who is now on his third place, but it's not like any of these other people that have bounced around. And that's what I think is interesting about Cam Ward. Cam Ward didn't leave a place because he was out of sorts and go somewhere else. He left the place to upgrade, right? So he left Incarnate Word and upgraded. Oh, no, I'm sorry, not Incarnate Word. Yeah, Incarnate Word. Sorry, yeah. Mm-hmm. He left Incarnate Word and upgraded to Washington State. Then he left Washington State to upgrade to Miami. And so if he's able to duplicate what he did at Incarnate Word and at Washington State at Miami, how can you deny him, right? In 3 different systems, he's been able to perform at a high level. I think that's what's going to give him the rub, and why it was a smart idea for him to come back for another season.
And he's also someone that kind of plays the game like a Kyler Murray, where it's a spread game, it's a breakneck game. He does a great job in creating and buying time, and we know he can throw the ball all over yard. We both cover FCS football, and we know how well he was that year at Incarnate Word. So if we just saw a draft where Bo Nix and J.J. McCarthy went round 1, there shouldn't be any doubt that these guys that you mentioned should have their name called in round 1, because of the added playmaking ability that they bring to the table, more so than a J.J. McCarthy. At least Bo Nix can get out there and scramble and make some plays athletically. You know, McCarthy outside the occasional scramble and bootleg or whatnot, but we're talking about being dynamic to where you are a legitimate threat to take off and run. Now you have that element thrown into the mix. This could be an exciting year for the quarterback room. And there's always guys that we are not talking about that can skyrocket. Caden Salters of Liberty, another one that is coming off a fantastic year. Quiet as kept. I'm gonna always be a fan of his game because I covered him in high school. But watching what TJ Finley did at Texas State, I'm excited to see how it looks at Western Kentucky.
Absolutely.
So it'll be interesting to see which QB comes out of the shadows and stars this year. I know KJ Jefferson can look a lot better at UCF as opposed to what he was doing at Arkansas, which was solid. He probably would have been day 3 pick this year, but let's see how he progresses at Central Florida. So there's names that we are used to hearing and we're used to seeing. Let's see how it plays out. That's why I don't like when people try to write the movie without write the ending without seeing how the rest of the movie plays out. So we'll see.
What do you think about the hype that a guy like Drew Aller at Penn State is receiving? Do you think it's worthy hype, or do you think it's just that a lot of hullabaloo, if you will?
You know, I like Drew Aller when he came in that game against Purdue in relief of Sean Clifford, and he threw 2 passes that Clifford could never even throw. It was like, okay, Penn State got something. You know, when it's time to turn this guy over, or maybe they should go to Drew Aller right now because he can stretch the offense vertically. That's why I was so excited about Penn State coming into the year, because they're like, man, they got 2 good running backs, very good offensive line, great defense, and finally a quarterback that can push the ball vertically down the field. They didn't have the receiving options that they had under Sean Clifford, but they also didn't let Drew Aller throw the football like that. So I'm still waiting to see if he can turn that corner, because we saw flashes, you know, as a freshman against Purdue. But then last year, he didn't play well. Even when they asked him to make those throws, he was still a bit gun shy. And maybe that's just Penn State's MO, but I'm still waiting to see if what we saw initially against Purdue is something that was still there in his frame. So I get the upside potential, but coming off what he did last year, we're going to have to see it this year in order for him to take that jump.
Emory, I always appreciate it, man. Emory Hunter of CBS Sports and FootballGamePlan.com. Make sure that if you have not, you follow him at FBallGamePlan. Make sure that you subscribe to the Football Game Plan YouTube channel. Make sure that you are going out and getting that 2024 draft guide. Remember that guide is not just good for the NFL. It's good for the UFL. It's good for Arena that has popped back off. Like you've seen Arena back up again. You're going to see a lot of those names in there. It's good for the European League and everywhere else you can be. Emory, I really do appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, man. Love the show, and I'm a loyal listener as well.
I appreciate it. Hey, when we come back from break, we're going to be joined by Turron Davenport of the Tennessee Titans beat for ESPN. Don't go anywhere. This is Talk Spicy on the Riptide Media Network.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting. A teenager. Learning the lingo.
Today I'm going to help parents translate teen slang. Now, when a teen says something is on fleek, it's exactly like saying, that's rad. It simply means that something is awesome or cool. Another one is totes. It's exactly like saying, totally, just shorter. As in, I totes love going to the mall with Becca. Another word you might hear is jelly. Jelly is a shorter, better way to say jealous. As in, Chloe, I am like so jelly of your unicorn phone case.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will think you're, rad, just the same. To learn more, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is the story of a very special woman. In a matter of seconds, she turned herself into a great mathematician or an entrepreneur. Her knowledge was limitless and still is. She could also make monsters disappear, especially those that lurked in the shadows under the bed. Once, this woman put back together a teenage girl's broken heart, which had been shattered in 1,000 pieces, just by giving her a bear hug. She masqueraded as a regular person at work, but as a superhero at home. Everyone knows her as Gabriella. I still call her Mom.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need to help, complete with tips and resources at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Hey, Dad, your prescription will be ready in just a minute. Hey, Dad, your laundry will be ready in just a minute. Dad, your lunch will be ready in just a minute.
Hey, honey, why don't you take a minute? When you help care for a loved one, you give them as much time as you can, making sure they're safe and comfortable. But it's just as important that you take some time for yourself. At AARP, we can help with information and useful tips on how you can maintain a healthy life balance. care for your own physical and mental well-being, and manage the challenges of caring for a loved one. Because the better care you take of yourself, the better care you can provide for your loved one.
Thanks, Dad.
Thank you. You're there for them. We're here for you. Find free care guides to support you and your loved one at aarp.org/caregiving. That's aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens, Riptide Media Network. Make sure that you're downloading the app on the 102.9 The Game app so that you can listen to this anywhere you are. You can listen to it live, or you can listen to the rebroadcast of it. Shout out to the Bleacher Brothers and their entire network for welcoming us in as we continue to try to give the people what they want. As my guy Jalen Rose would always say, I am joined right now by a guy who is a very good friend of mine, a confidant, a colleague that I love to bounce ideas off of. I think that we have, I have probably one of the most unique friend groups in all of this business, because we're not just out here, boosting each other up with like false bravado or false push up. We tell people the truth, and so sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree, and iron sharpens iron. So every time I see him, doing great things and achieving more, it makes me want to do great things and achieve more. And without further ado, my brother, Turron Davenport, TD, how you doing, man?
Hey, I'm doing really well, man. It's a good start to the morning, man. We get to keep it spicy right from the jump. I love it.
Absolutely. And over at ESPN, you've been covering the Titans now for how many seasons?
This upcoming one to be my 7th season.
Yeah, so I mean, you've ingrained yourself into the into the fabric of Titans football over these past 7 years. I think what I like about what you do and your approach the most is that you make it a point to let the fans know that I root for your team because obviously I want good things for you and for your team, but I'm not you. I'm not a fan, and so I'm not just looking at this simply from a fan's perspective. Has that always been important to you? Because this isn't the first team you've covered. Like when you've had to go from team to team to team, how have you been able to keep that level separate from becoming like the fans and then doing what you need to do for your craft?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's actually why, because, initially I did a lot of work covering the 49ers. I grew up, I was a 49er fan. John Taylor, Jerry Rice, those were my favorite players. And then, of course, T.O. And then I told myself, if I'm going to do this, I don't want to be a fanalist. I don't want to allow any love for the team to interfere with me being able to directly and objectively do what it is I had to do. So that's when I started covering the Ravens and then the Eagles and then the Titans. So it's just one of those things where it's like you don't let it cloud your judgment. And I think the draft is a good example, right? So you take a pick, let's just say a random guy, J.C. Latham, right? And a lot of fans, when it happens, they'll hate it because they're being very emotional. And then they'll go back and they'll say, oh, well, wait a minute, I could convince myself to love it. It's just instead of just from the rip, like, okay, let's do some research. Okay, we understand that he was this. We understand that this is the situation. Let's see how it'll work, to look at it objectively. That's the main thing.
And with that, I really want to go through the Titans, the Titans and what they've done this offseason, especially Ran Carthon and the job that he's done this offseason. New coaches, kind of a new philosophy, a new direction. What have you thought about the overall body of work this offseason that Ran Carthon has put on put out there for Titans fans to take advantage of?
Yeah, I think it starts with the coaching staff, and we actually had conversations about this. I'm really big on Brian Callahan. I think, and all along the whole time they had the search, I felt that he was the best guy. Did a lot of research, and even talking to him and interacting with him now, I definitely even stronger feel that he was the best guy. But the thing that I like that he did is he went out and he grabbed the defensive group, and I told him, I gave him an assignment. I said, you need to go watch Harlem Nights. So like that's your defensive staff, man. It's all black, and it's just like different characters. It's dope to mix. Start with Denard Wilson. You got Tracy Rocker. You got Frank Bush. You got Steve Jackson. Chris Harris is. Yeah, that staff, like I would love to be in the room with that defensive staff because there's no way that you play for those guys and not get energy, man. And I'm thinking about it now and smiling. So you got that, and then you turn around and you look at what they did. Calvin Ridley, I think, is a very underrated player. He's a dog. A lot of people are saying that he's 29, so he doesn't have much left. Is that a third? He's a baller. Then you turn around, you look at L'Jarius Sneed. And he's one of the funnest corners to watch. And it's one of those things where he's another guy. And it's a compliment that I give a corner. And it's that I'll tell a corner, if they're those feisty ones that's always in your pocket, those types, I always tell them, I say, if you and I practice together, we'll fight every day. And Sneed is that one. You know what I mean? So you look at that. Can't underestimate the addition of Lloyd Cushenberry, what they did. And then the draft, I think Rand has done a great job of just bringing in, they kind of set themselves with a motto, you know what I mean, where it's just like you want to have dogs. And I think each of the guys, the premier guys that they got, they're dogs. And then you add Sweat. It's funny, I was talking to Rand, and this was when they were going after CJ Gardner-Johnson, right? And he was like, man, every team, like you have to have one of those types of guys. We can't say what those types of guys are because, we want to keep this clean, but you got to have one of those types of guys. And I think that's what they got in T'Vondre Sweat. So you got that too. So they did a really good job.
So you mentioned something, and I want to come back to it because it leads into the first pick of the draft for them. You talked about the additions on the coaching staff. I think the biggest addition for Brian Callahan was bringing along his father, Bill Callahan, one of the most well-respected offensive minds, and more specifically, offensive line coaches that we have in this game.
Yeah.
It's what gave me a little bit more because I didn't particularly care for the hire. I'm not with all of these. Let's let these guys who were able to sit up under their pops or get a job off their pops' friends and work their way up the ladder, whatever. Never really ever having to get it out the mud. Now becoming head coaches. But when he brought his pops in, I was like, okay, he knows. And that's the thing is I can't fault anybody for the opportunities that they get, right? I can't fault you when you don't recognize that you've been given, a kind of boost to this thing. And I think by bringing his pops in, it's him recognizing, I'm here because of the fast track I was able to be provided because of who my father was. So let me bring in it's almost like The Godfather when Michael takes over, he says, what better consigliere could I have than my father, right?
Right.
And so he's got a guy who's his right-hand man who he can 100% trust. He knows his father's not trying to snape him for a job. He knows his father's not going anywhere. He knows his father's not trying to stand on his shoulders and get to another spot. His father wants him to be as successful as he can possibly be in that position. And oh, by the way, he's one of the best offensive line coaches in all the game. So that leads into their first draft pick. Now, I know that you were heavy on Alt. You thought Joe Alt was the guy you wanted to have him, but unfortunately, Joe Alt was off the table, right?
Yeah.
And so they draft J.C. Lathan. And my initial question was, why do you take a guy who has played exclusively right tackle or primarily right tackle his entire collegiate career and go, nope, the plan is to move him back to left tackle, which he hasn't played since high school, when he's had so much success at right tackle?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good question. And that's like the $1 million question for this draft. I think you said it though, Bill Callahan. That's the reason. You go back, and this is something a lot of people don't realize. So Tyron Smith, he played left tackle at USC, but then the final part of his career there, he played right tackle.
Mm-hmm.
He got to Dallas, he played right tackle. Bill Callahan got there in 2012, flipped him to left tackle, right? And then that was the start of like 6 consecutive Pro Bowl, 4 All-Pro. Like, he became one of the best left tackles in the league. I'm not going to say it was all Bill Callahan, but his tutelage definitely helped him. Then you fast forward to 2020, right? You got Jedrick Wills Jr., and he's a guy that played right tackle at Alabama, coincidentally, like J.C. Latham. And they flipped him because they signed Jack Conklin to play right tackle, who, by the way, was a left tackle that switched to right tackle, right? And so they flipped Wills to left tackle, and that has gone pretty well for them. He hasn't Pro Bowl or All-Pro, but he's been a solid part of what's been one of the best offensive line groups in the league. So they felt 100% that they could take Latham and have him do that. And in my opinion, Latham is a better prospect than Jedrick Wills Jr. And then you also go back, I talked to a couple of his coaches at IMG, and I mean, this is the dude that converted from defensive line to left tackle, right? So he's made the switch before. And that's something that I asked him at the press conference. Having made the switch before, do you think that's going to help you make the switch back to that position? And he said, yeah. And you look at what his college coach, Billy Williams, he said that, you know, it's like riding a bike. Once you get off of it, you could not ride a bike for a couple of years, but you get back on that bike, you're going to know how to ride it. So Brian Callahan, he talked about the footwork and just how, you know, you just got to reverse your technique and footwork that you learned at right tackle and apply it to left. So I think they believe 100% that he's going to be able to switch. We're going to see. I know the one thing is he's going to have the opportunity to go against some pretty good guys to get him ready, you know, and Jeffrey Simmons and Harold Landry, and you look at Arden Key with that length that he brings. So I'm looking forward to seeing that in camp.
Yeah, he's going to get baptized pretty quickly, right? He's not walking into a situation. It's interesting. Sometimes players walk into situations where the competition that's across from them can give them a false sense of security, right?
Yeah.
A false sense of belonging. Oh, I'm really good because the guys across from me aren't that great, right? But in this case, when you're thinking about who he has to go against in camp to really like earn his stripes, they're going to give him everything that he needs. And it's different types. There's different types of ends that he's going to see that'll give him the ability to be successful. I really do think that Callahan makes that pick a lot easier to swallow, especially when you're talking about moving him from the right to the left. Now, if they were just talking about drafting him to play right tackle, then guess what? I'm down for it. Like, I'm good. But the fact that they were talking about moving him from the right to the left, I was like, but Callahan. So round 2, they took T'Vondre Sweat, who I thought is I thought he was the best 2-gap interior defensive lineman in the draft, right? And I know that those guys are not as in vogue because a lot of teams are doing a lot of 1-gap penetrating these days. Even in your 30 fronts, it used to almost be a staple in the 30 front to have that 2-gap nose guard. But even now in your 30 fronts, they're doing more slant 30s. They're doing more tilt 30s where they're asking the nose guard to be, you know, an A-gap penetrator rather than just displace the center and play 2-gap. I think T'Vondre Sweat is a first-round talent that they were able to get in the second round. To me, that was the best draft pick of the day for the Titans, because you got, in my opinion, a day one starting caliber player on day two.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. And I think when you look at Sweat, and I was just texting with a fan the other day, yesterday, in fact, and they're like, what do you think of the pick? And I'm like, listen, man, like, people don't understand how much he's going to impact others, right? Obviously, he's going to have his own impact, but you're talking about 366 pounds of a man with a bull rush. Like, I remember down at the Senior Bowl, the Arkansas center, Bo Limmers, I think his name is.
Yeah.
Man, like, how as an offensive lineman, when you get a bull rush, like, you hop and you sink, and then you hop and you sink if it's too powerful. Well, he did that twice. He hopped, dropped his anchor, had to do it again and dropped his anchor. Then the third time, he was just like,
nothing.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That bull rush was just too much. So you can't go against him one-on-one. Like, you almost have to have two guys on him. So if you have two guys on him, one-on-one with Jeffrey Simmons, that's not fair. But then you also, as you mentioned, the two-gapping aspect, you got a guy up there that's going to occupy blockers, occupy gaps, and that's going to give Cedric Gray, who I think is their best pick, that's going to give him clean shots. Kenneth Murray, clean shots on the running back. So he makes, just that alone makes them better. And then one of the things Denard Wilson said that really stuck out to me is he wants his pass rushers, if they can't get to the quarterback, you turn from a pass rusher to a pass defender. And you could defend the pass by altering how the quarterback has to function. You ask any of the quarterbacks, Brady, Breeze, Aaron Rodgers, any of them, Mahomes, they'll tell you the thing that they hate the most is that pocket getting pushed back into their face, right? And so now you're impacting, when you're pushing that interior guy back into the quarterback, now they don't want to follow through as much. That throw is going to sail. It's not going to be as accurate. So now you're helping the corners too. So I think Sweat, it's a really good pick. And then again, like we started out with, he's one of those guys. You can't have a bunch of them, but you got to have a few of them on your team, and he's one of those types that you could have.
Absolutely. It was a defensive laden draft for Rand and his and his brain trust there. In round 4, they came back with Cedric Gray, the inside linebacker from UNC.
Yeah.
I thought this was an interesting move, because if I'm not, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, Jeremiah Trotter Jr. was still on the board at this point, right? Like, I was really surprised that with Trotter Jr. sitting there, that they didn't go Trotter Jr. What do you think it is that they saw about Gray that made them think this was the better the better fit for what they're doing defensively in Tennessee?
I think it was the coverage skills and the 3 years of production. You're talking about a guy who had 100+ tackles 3 years in a row. And, tackles are a jaded stat. But the thing is, what a tackle stat, like what that will show you, is the guy's around the football. So one way or another, he may not make the tackle, but he was around the football. So you like those things. And I think you look at, so Kenneth Murray, obviously he went to the Chargers and it didn't work out. But I think Kenneth Murray going to the Chargers is like trying to use a knife as a fork. You know what I mean? They didn't use him correctly. Mm-hmm. He's not a read and react. He's a guy you just say, look, man, just go bust stuff up. That's how you coach it. You know what I mean? So they're able to do that with him and not have him have the green dot, because I think you look at initially it's going to be Jack Gibbons from Minnesota, the undrafted free agent 2 years ago. He's probably going to be the starter initially, but Cedric Gray is going to supplant him at some point and be the green dot wearer. And it's funny because I asked Rand Carthon about rookies being the green dot, because that's tough, man. Like, you just going out there and knowing your own position and where you're supposed to line up is tough, and to play fast. But then you got to know everyone else. That's going to be even tougher. So I asked him, how a rookie could do that. And he pointed to Fred Warner. He said Fred Warner did it when he was a rookie. And ironically, when Cedric Gray on his Zoom was asked about players that he watched, Fred Warner's name came up, but so did Zaire Franklin. So I think you look at that and just the way that he'll complement Kenneth Murray, I think is going to be really good because he is a very alert linebacker and he could cover. Nowadays, you have to be able to cover, man, with the way these teams use move tight ends and so much 11 personnel where sometimes, you're going to have to carry a slot receiver up the seam before you pass it off to the safety or those different types of things.
They went defense 3 more times in this draft. They went with Brownlee at cornerback in round 5, and then in round 7 they got James Williams, the safety out of Miami, and they got Jalen Harold the edge out of Michigan. So Jalen Harold, just for fun, I know his father because his father was like the director of the projects where I lived at.
Wow.
When I was growing up. James
That's
Harold,
crazy.
he used to also be the head coach at Jesuit High School. Jesuit High School in Tampa Bay. James Harold is known. I've known James Harold ever since I was a little kid. And I've known a lot of his his kids and cousins, or nephews. One of his nephews I played with in basketball when I was in high school. I say all that because I think it's an intriguing pick because you're getting somebody who comes from a quality program that plays fundamentally sound defense.
Yeah.
And that's really, really important when you don't have the skill to just trick off out there, right? Like when you don't have the ability to just use your or you don't have the resource to use, I am just more athletic, I am just that much better than you athletically. You have to be fundamentally sound in this game. What do you look at a guy like Harold and his role and what he can possibly carve out for himself on this team?
Yeah, I like him situationally. You know what I mean? I think when you look at he's a guy initially third down situation, you bring him in. And then also when you want to go with something a little unorthodox, right? You bump Arden Key inside and you can have him come in and as a stand-up rusher at that position too. So 7th round pick. I mean, obviously he's not going to get a bunch of opportunities, but I could definitely see him, coming in and being a part of that rotation.
Landry, Key, Weaver, Murphy.
Yeah, Caleb Murphy. Yeah.
There's a lot of competition for snaps at that position because I don't believe he has the versatility to move inside and do things inside.
Yeah.
I think he's primarily what he is out there on the edge. Special teams will probably be big for him to try to carve out a niche for him on this team. Undrafted free agents. Give me one undrafted free agent that you think has an opportunity to come in and make this roster.
Yeah, I think you look at what the Titans did. They addressed everything except for tight end. And, I like Chigakampo a lot. And I think he's going to be the starter. Josh Wiley will be in the mix too. And they have Thomas Odukoya as well, who they got the international roster exemption for. But they signed a guy out of Temple. David, it's a hyphenated.
Martin Robinson. David
Robinson. They signed him. And he's a very athletic tight end. He's got good size. So I think he could come in and add something to that mix because they don't have Trevon Wesco, who was like their inline tight end. You know what I mean? So they do need to bring somebody in that can replace. So I would say he would be the guy that could make the roster. I was frustrated with them because I wanted them to go after Leonard Taylor out of Miami. And he signed elsewhere. I forget who he signed with, but I was like, Rand, come on, man. Like, come on, you got it. He's another one of those dogs that you could have had.
He's like you said, you can't have too many of them in there, but you need them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I'll get you out of here on this. You have become, not just known for your writing, and I want to applaud you because I've been watching you right now for the better part of 10 years. And I love how you've carved out your voice, and I always, I always talk about having a voice, having something that is specific, that is unique, that when someone reads it, they go, this is this person, right? Like I look at it and go, if I went to an AI and said, write me an article in the voice of this, they should be able to fashion an article that sounds something like you. I believe that you have carved out a very unique voice, and with it has become has been a persona. Like when you show up at the stadium, you're there to be seen, right? Like you ain't out there just wearing some sweatpants and a t-shirt or wearing some khakis and a polo. Like you come fitted. You and our friend Emory Hunt.
Yeah, man.
Well-dressed people in all. I'm not putting myself in that category, even though I know how to throw it on. But you and Emory Hunt, what's the difference between how you bring your style and what he does? Because I feel like you both have high-level style, but it's two completely different types of style. What's the difference, would you say, between your style and a guy like Emory's?
I think the biggest difference is I never wear suits. I always have a jacket and pants that they match up, but I feel like wearing a suit is cheating. Like I think you got to be more creative to do sport coat and slacks. But what I noticed with Emory, what he's starting to do, like he had that canary yellow on for the draft and was stinging him, and the mint green he had on, he's starting to branch out into more colors. And that's
he
it.
stole the mint green from me. Like he thinks he's slick. He thinks he's slick. I had the mint green, and I'm calling him out because he's gonna be on the show. He's gonna be on the, or he was on the show earlier. And I didn't call him out on it like right then, but I'm definitely gonna call him out on it. Like he stole the mint green. I was rocking the mint green, and then all of a sudden he had a mint green. But you're right. I think I would call your style more of athletic chic, right? Like you do a good job of mixing the athletic elements. Like I'll see you with the hoodie, with the the blazer on, which is one of my favorite staples. I haven't found a way to pull it off in the booth yet, but when I do, it's coming. But like the hoodie with the blazer, rocking the slacks with the blazer, but then with some sneakers on, right?
Yeah.
Like, you keep a little athletic in it. Like let them know I could still like pull up on you if I need to. But I think both of those styles, you're right. To a certain extent, the suit is cheating, but I think it takes style to be able to consistently pull off a suit where it doesn't get old.
Right. And then to see the thing that Emory does really well is the coordinating pieces. You know what I mean? And even in some cases, the lining. Like I've seen him with a couple of liners, but I like the way, and it's you could always buy a set like tie and handkerchief, but he doesn't do that. You know what I mean? The pocket square is a different color to the tie, and the shirt pops. He does a good job of doing that.
Yeah, he does a really good job of peacocking on the suit for sure.
Yeah,
like, he definitely makes it work. TD, man, I appreciate the time. Tell everybody where they can follow you. Tell them what you got coming down. Don't forget, especially if you got access to it, Talking with TD, man. Y'all got to check him out. He's over there spitting that knowledge. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Yeah, no, you could definitely Talking with TD on Spotify, Google Podcasts, iTunes, anywhere like that. We have a weekly show. It drops on Wednesdays, so definitely check that out. You could also check me out, ESPN.com. You click on NFL and then teams, and then there's a Titans page. So there's at least during the off season, there's one post a week. It goes up to 2 during the season, and then we got the X's and O's, something that I know you specialize in, and you made me want to do that. You know what I mean? So we got Whiteboard Wednesday.
Whiteboard Wednesdays, baby.
Yeah, during the season. So you could check all that out.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, man. We'll talk to you soon. We'll definitely double back once training camp opens up and keep this thing rolling throughout the season. Always a blessing to talk to you, my guy.
For sure. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. And stay tuned after this break. We'll be back. We're going to close you out. I'm going to have to eulogize the Lakers because it's over for my guys this year. This is Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens, Riptide Media Network.
To some people, the sound of a baby babbling doesn't mean much. But that's not necessarily true. By 6 months, they're combining vowels and consonants. By 9 months, they're trying out different kinds of sounds. And by 12 months, their babbling is beginning to take on some meaning. Especially if there's no babbling at all. Little to no babbling by 12 months or later is just one of the possible signs of autism in children. Early screening and intervention can make a lifetime of difference and unlock a world of possibilities. Take the first step at autismspeaks.org. A public service announcement brought to you by Autism Speaks and the Ad Council.
The following is made possible by Dad.
Why was the basketball court all wet? Because the players kept dribbling all over it.
The dad joke. Corny, grown-worthy, but also one of the simplest ways to share a moment with your kids.
Why do you have to be careful when it's raining cats and dogs? Because you might step in a poodle.
And kids that spend more time with their dads grow up to be smarter, more successful.
Can I tell you a cat joke? Just kidding.
And with any luck, funnier adults.
Why didn't the skeleton go to the dance? Because he didn't have any body to go with.
Dad jokes rule. So take a moment to make a moment and give your kid a laugh. It's as easy as going to fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
That's really funny.
Okay, men, this is your time. Maybe you didn't choose this, but you're here now. You're gonna go out there and be an all-star caregiver. It's up to you. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna go grocery shopping, cook, clean, be there emotionally and physically. You gotta dig deeper. Drive them to physical therapy, doctor's appointments. Don't you forget about the pharmacy. I know you won't, because that's what caregivers do. Don't give up. Don't ever give up. This is your time to show the world, your family, and yourself that you're tougher than tough. Now go out there and be the best caregiver this world has ever seen. Caregiving is tougher than tough. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving. A public service announcement brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Talk Spicy. I'm Coach Gene Clemens, Riptide Media Network. Make sure that you download the 102.9 The Game app if you want to keep hold or listen wherever you are. If you want to see shows that have been archived, you can listen to them all at the 102.9 The Game app. Download it from Google Play Store, wherever you download your apps from. Shout out to the Bleacher Brothers network for allowing me to broadcast on all of their platforms as well. Shout out to my X/Twitter people, Facebook groups, and of course the YouTube. Make sure you like and subscribe over there. I appreciate Emory Hunt of Football Game Plan joining me today, talking about the future of quarterbacking as we look towards the 2024 college football season and towards the 2025 draft. I also big love to Turron Davenport of ESPN for joining me to talk Titans, talk a little style on the end as well. And M, don't worry, I'm gonna bring up the fact that you stole that mint look from me, but I'll get to that later. I really wanted the opportunity to talk about a team that is really near and dear in my heart. I want to say a fond goodbye, a fond farewell to my Los Angeles Lakers. If you've been paying attention, the Los Angeles Lakers were just swept in a gentlemanly way. A 5-game loss to the Denver Nuggets. I want to start by giving a little bit of credit to the Lakers, because nobody had the Lakers winning this series. So acting surprised or acting shocked that the Lakers lost is really like, it's BS. Let's be real about it. Like, it's a little foolhardy when we think about the fact that people are trying to make it seem as if the Lakers failed when they were the 7 seed and they lost to the 2 seed, whom everybody believes is going to win the championship. So it's a little disingenuous. It's a little disingenuous when I hear people talking about the Lakers as if this season was a failure because they lost to the champions from last year and essentially a team that everybody thinks is going to win this year. The Lakers were not the favorites, yet in 4 games, I believe 4 out of the 5 games, maybe even 5 out of 5 games, they had a chance to win. Well, I should say 4 to 5 games because one of the games they actually won. But in those 4 games they lost to the Nuggets, they got beat by a buzzer beater in 2 of the games. In the other 2 games, they had significant leads. They let the leads go, but they were still competitive down to the stretch. So we don't have to sit here and act as if the Nuggets were just like destroying the Lakers. That's one of those narratives that people try to throw out there after the fact to make themselves feel better about whatever they prognosticated. Here's the truth about what happened in the Lakers versus the Nuggets. The Nuggets just have better role players than the Lakers do. Right? And it makes sense. The Lakers had they had KCP. And KCP played really, really well for the Lakers. And for some reason, the Lakers didn't want to pay KCP. And you know what KCP did? He went to the Nuggets. Now the Lakers have to deal with KCP. The Lakers had the opportunity to upgrade to better players. And some of the players that they chose to stick with, some of the players that they chose to hold on to, they didn't get it done. Like, we can say what we want, but the truth is that Rui Hachimura was in witness protection this entire series. Yo, what happened to him? I thought he was supposed to be the difference. Defensively, he has all this talent. Offensively, he should change the math, right? That's what we were told. That's what we were led to believe when the Lakers acquired Rui Hachimura. But judging by the fact that every single plus points every single game, I don't know if Rui Hachimura was actually doing anything worth a damn in this series. Right? D'Angelo Russell, who is supposed to be the instant offense for this team. He's supposed to be the guy who changes the math because he's a dude who can put up 40. He's a dude who can shoot the lights out. He's a dude who can get hot. But he's a dude who's always been streaky. What happened to him in this series? He had one half that he got hot from 3. I think he hit 6 threes in the half. That's essentially all he did in 6 games. One half a play. That was his legitimate contribution to the Lakers. And that was a game they didn't even win. We have to start asking questions. Was it right to give Austin Reeves this contract extension? You couldn't get better production offensively from other people, because you can't sit here and tell me that, oh, well, it's about defense. Who's Austin Reeves checked all year? He has not checked anyone all year. He's an offensive player. Who are we going to blame? Hey, here's what D'Lo and Austin Reeves were from three-point line in a closeout game that the Lakers lost by 1 point. They were 3 for 15. How is your point guard and your shooting guard 3 for 15 in a game that you lose by 2 points? Who are we supposed to blame? What y'all really gonna come out here and come out of your mouths and blame LeBron James again? This man had essentially a 30-point triple-double in the closeout game. And he had 4 steals. And he only turned the ball over once. What more do you want out of LeBron James? What more are you looking for out of LeBron James, who's going to be 40 in December? When we hit 2025, LeBron James will be 40 years old. And he's out here averaging in a season 26 points, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists on 54% shooting. Name me another 39-year-old that's ever done that. I'll stop you. You can't name one. But it's not about LeBron James. It can't be. Say what you want about Anthony Davis, but Anthony Davis showed up in this series. Even in this game, which probably was his lesser work because he didn't shoot as much, this man had 17 points and 15 rebounds. Like, what else? Hey, listen, if D'Angelo Russell ain't going to score 20-plus points, then what is he getting paid for? Because that's where the market inefficiency is at. It's in the guards. You want to know why the Denver Nuggets are able to beat the Lakers? Because their guard is named Jamal Murray. And Jamal Murray is better than D'Angelo Russell and Austin Reeves combined. His production is their production combined. You don't think this goes on Austin Reeves? You don't think this goes on D'Angelo Russell? You don't think Hachimura is responsible for this? You want to lay this on the feet of LeBron and AD? Go right ahead. Cool. I'm going to give the people who also get paid a lot of money a lot of responsibility for this. Check this out. Can anybody tell me how many points a game D'Angelo Russell averaged in the regular season? I'll stop you. It's 18 points. Can anybody tell me how many points D'Angelo Russell averaged in this Denver Nuggets series? 14 points. 14 points. That means that if he just averages what he normally averaged in the regular season, in the postseason, the Lakers win the series. If he just averaged 4 more points, the Lakers win the series. That's how close these margins were in this game. They win both of those games that they lost by a buzzer beater, right? And they probably win game 1. It's a 5-1, it's a 4-1 gentleman sweep Lakers. Anybody know how much Austin Reeves averaged during the regular season? I do. 16 points. Anybody know what he averaged this postseason? 16 points. Well, then what you talking about there, Gene? He averaged 16 points in the postseason. Okay. Go look at his game one performance when he was afraid to shoot. Where every time the ball touched his hand, he passed it away like it was a hot potato. Where he seemed as if he didn't want to have the game come down to him. Yeah, I'm being harsh. Why? Because somebody needs to be harsh. It's time for harsh. And we can't sit here and blame Anthony Davis and LeBron James for everything, even though you want to. In a regular season, Rui Hachimura averaged 13.6 points a game. In the postseason, he averaged 7.8. If these dudes showed up the way they showed up in the regular season, then the Lakers walk over the Denver Nuggets. The difference is that the Denver Nuggets players get better in the postseason. They don't get worse, they get better. And when you're not going to rebound, when the only two people on the team rebounding are Anthony Davis and 39-and-a-half-year-old LeBron James, you're probably going to lose. That's how this thing works. But all I ever hear is people like Stephen A. Smith and all of the talking heads and loud screaming people blaming LeBron, blaming AD. Oh, AD got to get tougher. Man, AD's so soft. Everybody that's criticizing AD, everybody that's criticizing AD, everybody that's criticizing him, they all can't hold his job. Everybody that's talking about what AD can't do can't hold his job. Everybody that's saying that AD is soft, they're not as good at their job as AD is at his job. Not even Stephen A. Stephen A. is not considered to be one of the greatest writers of his generation, one of the greatest sports writers of his generation. Pat McAfee came in and got him out the paint immediately. Oh, why are you criticizing Stephen A? Because he criticizes people. So you can't be above criticism if you criticize people. If people want to come in and say, hey, man, Coach Clemens, you don't know what you be talking about. Cool. Provide some context. Tell me where I'm lying. Explain to me where the market inefficiency is. The Denver Nuggets show up in the playoffs. The Los Angeles Lakers, as a team, they don't. They don't. They got Spencer Dinwiddie out there for 14 minutes. That's what you brought him in for? To play 14 minutes in the game? Gabe Vincent, you paid him all that money. He got 9 minutes. 0 for 2. This is a closeout game. You gotta have all the bullets in the gun loaded and ready to shoot. And yet, this is what we get. This is what we are saddled with. LeBron James has to take 21 shots in the closeout game because Austin Reeves and D'Angelo Russell can't hit a three. Anthony Davis and LeBron James have to combine for 24 rebounds because Rui Hachimura can't get rebounds. Because Austin Reeves can't rebound as a shooting guard. LeBron James gets 11 assists because he's the best assist man on the team. Yes, this is harsh criticism, but we got to stop giving the harsh criticism to the people who show up all the time. We got to stop blaming the people who put it on their backs the entire time. All I hear is shade at Kevin Durant. And I keep trying to figure out where are people out here saying, hey, yo, Devin Booker, hey, yo, Bradley Beal, yo, where you at? Like, for all of the hoopla, for all of the BS that we hear, right? The Phoenix Suns were supposed to be a three-headed monster. Devin Booker was the leader in points and assists this year. Devin Booker was supposed to be what Anthony Edwards is. Right? Devin Booker showed up. 49 points. What else you want from this man? 49 points. This dude shot 21 free throws in a game and hit 20 of them. Kevin Durant, 33 points. What else do you want from him? Bradley Beal, 9 points. This is supposed to be a big three. Where's the bench points? You want to know why they lost? There's the why. You got Kevin Durant out here trying to be a big man, grabbing rebounds with all of these trees that's out here for the Timberwolves. You got him out here trying to hang with all these trees. Minnesota starts 2 legitimate centers. And for the first time in his career, Karl Anthony Towns realizes he's a center. He got hot from 3, so he took 6 of them. I ain't like it. But okay, cool. Because the other 11 were shots that he should have taken. Like, why are we so quick to lob the issues that they're having on KD and on Devin Booker? They're doing their job. Where's everybody else at? Where's everyone else at? Hey, ladies and gentlemen, the stars were the stars. That's what you want, right? The stars to be the stars. The stars were the stars. AD was special. LeBron was special. KD was KD. Devin Booker was Devin Booker. It's the others that have to help you get across that line. That's what Shaq talks about all the time. Yeah, you got to get the others. You know why he calls them the others? Because they don't ever get any of the blame. So if you're not going to get blame, why do you need to have your name called? I'm here to say we need to start blaming them. I'm here to tell you that there's an opportunity to pass along this blame. Why not? Why wouldn't we? They deserve it. LeBron doesn't deserve it. Anthony Davis doesn't deserve it. KD doesn't deserve it. We'll blame coaches like it's going out of style. Darvin Ham didn't do... Man, listen. Darvin Ham didn't shoot a shot, grab a rebound, make a pass, play any defense. Do I think Darvin Ham is the greatest coach ever? Nope. But I didn't hire him. And I didn't co-sign him. And it's really easy for people to start pointing at the coach. Like I said, it's like clockwork. Or it's the coach's fault. It's the coach's fault. Oh, it's the star's fault. No. It's your fault, D'Angelo Russell. It's your fault, Austin Reeves. It's your fault, Rui Hachimura. And you should be kissing whatever part of the body that you would need to kiss in order to pay homage to the fact that LeBron James and Anthony Davis and Darvin Ham are going to take all of this blame. You're not going to have to get any of this blame while you sit there and collect millions upon millions upon millions of dollars. Nobody will say it's your fault. Everyone will just say, oh, they need help. You're supposed to be the help. Hey, don't forget, Michael Porter Jr. was supposed to be the number 1 pick in the draft. He got a back injury his 1 year in college, barely played. He dropped a few. It took him then another year to get his back right. And because he was so young, he's only 25 right now. They got Jokic in the 2nd round. It's different around here. It's different around here. You should understand it. If you don't understand it, then guess what? That's not how your brain works. Okay, cool. We can't have the same type of conversations then. It's time for us to start blaming these role players the way they should be blamed. Why? Because in the NBA, the role players make like elite level money. You got people who are the 8th and 9th person on the NBA bench making NFL superstar money. They laugh at these NFL contracts. Oh, that's cute. You gave your quarterback $140 million. That's cute. I'm about to sign this $300 million max. And I'm Jaylen Brown. I'm not even Jason Tatum. I'm Jaylen Brown doing this. So yeah, we can give some blame out to people other than the stars or the coaches. It's all right. They're going to go home to their mansions. They're going to go home to their girls with the BBLs. They're going to go home to their signature wines and their spirits that they came up with, and their PJs and their podcasts, and they're going to tell their truth. It's okay for us to criticize them. When you don't get the job done, you don't get the job done. That's how it's always been. That's how it always should be. But instead, for clicks or because it's the hot button topic, we want to always put the blame on the stars. Well, that's why they're stars. They take the blame. No. They take the blame because people can't figure out what they really should be talking about, what the real discussion should be. It's lazy. I'm not here for it. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on Talk Spicy. We do this every day, 4 to 6 p.m. Riptide Media Network and the 102.9 The Game app. If you haven't downloaded it, make sure you download it. Like, subscribe, comment, Agree, disagree, but whatever you do, keep it spicy. Until next time, you know what to do. Peace.